Hi guys, and welcome back to Dice Down Gaming. This week we're covering the Shadowflame Shard leader models. We've got some really special guests today. This week we've got Dan, the usual, and with us we've got Steamforge Game member Jamie. How are you all doing in the chat? How's your week been? Dan, how's your week been, bud?
It's been great. Today I had a nice little package turn up at my door for another Eidolon and Ghost model ready for my faction, and then found the box that I was missing, went missing for a couple of months. The moment literally turned up on the doorstep. So I now can run a 3 Eidolon list, which is going to be great. Looking forward to using that on Saturday.
Awesome. And as we said, we knew this would happen. Jamie, thanks so much for joining us. How are you? And introduce yourself, buddy.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on. I'm great, thank you. And it's always a busy week when you work at Steamforge. Living the dream, getting to work on miniature games that you've played since you were a little kid anyway. So always a lot to work on. But I'm having a great time at the moment playing Warmachine. Like I've not managed to get any games in this week. It's been that busy at work, but I'm looking forward to getting some games in at the team event. I think we're playing at a board in Bromwich team event in next Saturday. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, and that's a big event, right? There's a lot of people there.
Yeah, surprising actually, because I think it was originally billed as like a sort of a WTC team practice event, and we've ended up getting like 8 teams for 40 players, which is fantastic because it's a good little team event going on. So I think they've got the groundings of something that could grow over the year on year. I think for that one.
Yeah, that could be like a regular big team event. That would be awesome because team events are like the most fun you can have playing tabletop. So that would be really cool. Fantastic. So we're going to go over the Shadowflame Shard leader models. We're going to take a look at the cards, and then we're going to use some of Jamie's wisdom and insight into the Shadowflame Shard. Am I right in thinking you recently played them in a war table league?
I've actually been playing them sort of most of the last year, so
Okay.
I tend to sort of pick a faction that I'm going to play in my own time and tend to stick with it for most of the year. I think that when the first year Mark IV, I was playing like Legacy Legion, and then I've Legion of Overlight, and I played Winter Core last year. This year apparently it's Shadowflame for me, so I've been playing it most of the year actually, having a lot of fun with them. So.
Fantastic. Awesome. Right, so we're going to kick off with Kyrax, the Unrelenting Knight. We've got 20 boxes, speed 7, mat 7, def 13, armor 18, arc 6, control 12. We've got Alpha Hunter, so Warmachine's model battle group unit activations in its control range can run, charge, and make power attacks for free, without being forced. And when its model destroys one or more models in its activation, they get +2 speed and +2 mat. So really strong for your cohort. Cleave, if it kills a model in melee, you can make an additional melee attack. Reposition 2 and steady. We've got range 2, power 14 melee weapon. And we've got shield for +1 to +2 armor, so we're going to be armor 20. The feat, Avalanche of Steel. Friendly faction warrior models in Kyrax control range gain +2 to melee attack rolls. Additionally, when a friendly faction warrior destroys or removes from play one or more enemy models with an attack, you get another attack, and the model can move 2 inches as well. We've got a spell called Unstoppable Force. Widening spells control range. Models in its battle group gain bulldoze. That lasts for 1 turn. And we have Vortex of Destruction, which is damage rolls against enemy models in the spellcaster's melee range are automatically boosted. So the card suggests me quite an aggressive warlock. What are your thoughts, Jamie?
Kyrax is all about the Alpha Strike. Like he wants to go in really fast and hit things really hard. He's not got a ton of defensive tech there, apart from Kyrax himself is like quite a difficult to kill warlock with shield going up to armor 20. But in terms of the playstyle for Kyrax, it's all about getting in first, getting as many models off the table as possible on that first hit, because resilience is really not a strength of the army Kyrax tends to like to run. So a lot of warrior models moves very fast. You'll often play dash in terms of your rack spells to make sure you're going even faster. On top of that as well, the Avalanche of Steel, the feat as well there for Kyrax is it's a feat that at first you read it and go, oh, there's just extra attacks and it's a little bit of speed sometimes. It seems like it's very straightforward at first, but it really is something that you can sort of use. It's a big brain feat when you first use it, and you go, oh, there's actually a lot more different things you can do with this here. You can kill a model over here and have another unit go a bit further, and suddenly they're in threat range of what they want to charge. You can have a unit that has charged into an enemy unit already and just use it for additional attacks to munch through more of the model in that unit. You can do quite a lot of interesting things with it. So yeah, no, moves fast, hits hard, all about Kyrax.
Dan, what are your thoughts on Kyrax?
I think he's the alpha the faction. He's the big bully. He's the Tyrus of Shadowflame Shard. I love the fact that he turns up being a centaur and he's like, I'm gonna kill you. I get home faced people using him a lot recently because he's quite popular, and I think he looks awesome too. Vortex of Destruction is so good. The fact that you get that bubble of just all right, I'm gonna hit you, and when I hit you, I'm gonna do even more damage. I think Jamie's right about being just that real sort of punching force. I think for me personally, I really like the play style. I think he'll be great. I think he'll be great for sort of newer players as well, because you just like, right, my mission is to try and hit you as hard as I can. I also think that he's not necessarily battle group dependent. So being a sort of a hordes faction, I don't know what the technical term is now, but being able to transfer damage can also mean that, well, his defense 13 isn't great, he's steady, and actually you can transfer that damage off, and when you're armor 20, you're not going to be taking a huge amount either. So I really like him. I think Kyrax, I haven't got him at the moment, so I've got very basic for my Shadowflame Shard. God, that was a tongue twister. And I'll definitely be picking him up along with the Cav, along with all the medium based dudes, along with all the chain weapons. And I think the army looks stunning visually when it comes over in a horde across the table, ready to smash face. Love it.
For the record, I think Tyrus wishes he was Kyrax. Before we make that clear, I
think Kyrax. I agree. I think Tyrus goes to bed in Kyrax pajamas.
Yeah.
But Kyrax goes, I wish I just had a little bit more threat range, which is ridiculous because he's doing so much. But
you know, like when Kyrax, Tyrus sees Kyrax at the gym, and it's like, I always had that bod. Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Tyrus is on the running machine. He's like, I got this. But he's looking over at Kyrax lifting weights, being like,
he's the guy that's like, I train, bro, but still does cardio. And Kyrax is just lifting, bro. There's no cardio for Kyrax. So, Jamie, any like standout models that you think Kyrax really likes in a list?
Oh, there's a few. I mean, there's a few kind of core models that I tend to build like my Chimera list with anyway, that I think are good intelligent models to take for anything that's like 50 points and above, which is a unit of Shadowflame, Shadowmancers, the Wormspan Shadowmancers, and that's because they bring a number of useful elements for you, can sort of help your battle group in terms of like condition, also being having access to Isle of Sight magical attacks, just very useful abilities to have in your army. They won't always necessarily earn points for them. They're a backline support unit, but I take them in pretty much every list because you'll always find a use for them somewhere, even if it's just contesting something on your backline. And then outside of that, my personal favorite unit in the faction is Lashes, Talon Lashes. So they move very fast, critical knockdown on the melee attacks, having gang, so they're quite high mat as well. They can hit things with a good amount of accuracy even before you put buffs on them, and being able to drag things out of position as well as situationally opens up like assassination vectors for small and medium based enemy warcasters and warlocks. So I very rarely make a list without 2 units of Lashes and a unit of Shadowmancers. And then he always also likes taking a Hunter's Mark Vipex. So he's all about threat range anyway, getting across the table fast. So making sure you've got a Vipex with the Hunter's Mark Animus to be able to cast that across the table and get things charging even further. It just all plays into Kyrax's game plan, so I loves all those things. Yeah.
Because the Hunter's Mark sort of goes on top of Alpha Hunter, eh? So you got +4.
Right.
Yeah, lovely.
But with Kyrax, that's more of a general. So I'll take those in every list that we talk about, to be fair. But with Kyrax specifically, I really like still taking the Wyvern. So in terms of having just a pure, this is going to put damage on your face melee beast, then you want something. Sometimes you want something a little bit more simple than a Tri-Chimera X to play with. And a Wyvern is very simple in terms of it hits very hard, it moves very fast. It's got flight, so it can just go across things automatically anyway, as it already is. And once it gets there, it's going to deal some serious damage. If you start putting all the buffs on it from what Kyrax can provide and then the rest of the army, if you've got Beligul as well for the Enrage, and you've got Silence of Death as one of your rack spells, then you're pumping out power 22 Talon attacks at mat 9 because of Alpha Hunter, and this model is being able to threat against something that is 16 or 17 inches away from it when you've got all the speed buffs on it, so it goes very far. And sometimes if you just want to pick a model and go, this needs to die this turn, you need to put a Wyvern on it, put all the buffs, and it'll usually go down.
Yeah, nice. I've played against Kyrax a few times now. I've had the pleasure. And Skylar seems a popular pick because you've got the excessive healing to keep him a bit alive a bit more, and the Drakian for the Indomitable Aminus. So again, if you're playing like aggressive and he's in melee, a bit harder to kill as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of Kyrax's biggest strengths is like he's quite difficult to assassinate. Also because the shield that he's got has got repel. So if you don't have a way of stopping pushes, when you're going to hit Kyrax consistently, you're just going to get pushed out.
Yeah, I remember actually one of the very first games I played back into Mark IV, I was using Boom Howler, and this was before I knew Grievous Wounds didn't stop transfers. My opponent came in really heavy with Kyrax, and I was like, look at this idiot. He is going to get killed. So I moved it with Boom Howler, and I was like, hit with my sword, it's Grievous Wounds, and they were like, that doesn't even do anything. I was like, oh, right, okay, well, I'll send my War Beast in, and I made an attack, and then I got pushed away, and I was like, oh, well, yeah, good, that's great. So surprisingly hard to kill, but I think that makes sense because I think he's one of those warlocks. To get the maximum value, you want to be up mid-table. You want people in vortex of destruction range, and to do that, you're going to be in the enemy's line. So having survivability makes sense, or otherwise his design would sort of fall apart. But I think you go.
From your experience, Jamie, how often has Kyrax been killed when you've been using him?
A few times, to be fair, and that's usually been the main way that I've lost games with Kyrax is because you're trying to push so aggressively. That whole game plan is so aggressive, and he's often spending time really in the middle of the table that sometimes he's just gone a bit far up, and you've spent one too many transfers, and you do get him killed because that game plan is so aggressive. But at the same time, you will often feel when you're piloting Kyrax that that choice is within your hands. There have been times when I played against, say, Sepsira, and you've got Sepsira with the Kyrax army with the really long range threat on the feet, and they really want to try and land on your Warcaster if you can. And in those games, I've just experimented with, well, my War Beast all run for free because of Alpha Hunter, so I guess I'm just going to drop all my upkeeps, camp 6 Fury, run forwards. Are you going to kill me? Because if you don't, I'm going to now be in a very aggressive position the following turn. It didn't kill me out of interest, by the way. But so it was.
How many did you kill back?
We're not going to talk about that. The War Beast were less happy about this turn of events. Let's be honest. But Kyrax is fine. Because you can spread it all around. They were just a little bit like, boss, we don't like this plan. But ultimately the plan worked.
Please stop hitting me. I suppose that's the feat, really. That's like the ideal thing you want to see is that single wound sort of medium infantry, so there's lots of opportunities to get the additional attacks, and you can really trade up during the feat turn. I suppose that's the ideal thing for Kyrax to see, I suppose.
Yeah. Single wound infantry is something that Kyrax will go through quite a lot of in one go if he gets the chance to.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be single wound because he's killed plenty of Marauder crew. So all in all, great at killing stuff. Great. Let's jump. We're conscious. We've only got an hour. We're very grateful to have an hour with Jamie. So we're going to jump into Lylyth, the Raven. Is this Lylyth 5 now?
Lylyth. It is Lylyth 5. Yes.
Yeah. So we're on Lylyth 5.
The right quest model counted as number 4.
Right, okay, that makes sense. So we're 20 boxes, and also 50 mil base. I think like one of these models, if you don't see it in real life, the first time you see it, you'll be like, damn, she's got something to her. You're a big girl. Lylyth 5, she's speed 7, arcane attack 6, rat 8, death 15, armor 16, arcane attack 6 with control 14. Field Marshal run and gun, which is I think sprint if you kill something with a ranged attack. Yeah, you can make an aimed move if you kill something with a ranged attack. And warping winds. If you target her with a ranged attack, you're -3 range, and that's everything within 3 inches of Lylyth as well. She's got a gun, which is rat 8. And blast resistance. Yes, good shout. And blast resistance. Got a rat 8 range 12 gun. It's reload 2, so you could fire 3 times, and power 14. Crit grievous wounds, which is always great. No healing and damage removed and no tough. And hush full draw, which is a spray 12 attack, which is cumbersome. So you're either shooting they're both bow attacks. So I guess you're either shooting one very big arrow or you're firing 3 smaller arrows. This one is armor piercing. Oh, wow, nice. Armor piercing at power 10. Great. Crit stagger, which is really good. And if you fire that, you can't fire the 3 shot. Winds of Change speaks to me as an old Kruger 2 player, which is -2 rat. And then you're also pushed 2 inches away. It's currently within, so you could walk feet and then sprint backwards with a run and gun move. We've got Deadeye. Target friendly faction model gains additional die as next ranged attack roll. And Slipstream, what a throwback to old Warmachine, Slipstream. When the spellcaster ends its normal movement, choose one other large or smaller base friendly faction model within 2 of the spellcaster. You can place a social model completely within 2 of the current location. So you can give a little train journey to a cohort model. Model can be placed as a result of a Slipstream. Doesn't have to be cohort, actually, any model. That's Lylyth, the Raven Vengeance. What are your thoughts on the lady, Jamie?
So Lylyth is probably the most fun I have playing with a Chimera Warlock, because there's, in terms of like personal movement on the table, the flexibility you have with Lylyth is, I think, is the highest you've got of any of the models there. In terms of like being able to move forwards, move back, move sideways, like you can play her with a battle group of like spray heavy Hydrixes and Wyverns. You can have them charging into combat or just moving forward to shoot, and then moving straight backwards if you need to, or I'll more often have them moving forwards and then moving to the side to go and cover an objective that they wouldn't have normally been able to get to, as well as dealing some damage. Like she has a lot of very flexible mobility. And so in terms of just, if you just enjoy a positioning game that's very interesting and you can do a lot of different things with it and it's very flexible, then Lylyth is going to be something you're going to want to pick up. And then just in terms of her personal damage output, she gets a lot done. She can get a lot done from turn to turn. Being able to come forwards and shoot up to 3 models at Rat 8, she's not going to need to boost very much in terms of like regular targets. And Power 14, she's going to do a lot of damage to even harder targets as well if she can boost. And if, as long as she kills something during her activation, she's going to get a move backwards again with run and gun. So you can play her very personally aggressive, and then as long as you get something killed during her turn, so it can be a little bit risky if you're playing against like Tough, for example, and then get her out afterwards. And because she expands that to her battle group, that's where the core of her playstyle really is. So I think she likes to play a bit battle group heavy because she gives that run and gun to everything, and she likes to play like shooting heavy. So I would say that Lylyth is probably the biggest fan of the Hydrix, for example. That she really loves taking, you know, a combination of melee and ranged weapons on those Hydrixes. So in terms of, you can, you know, the Slipstream works great on them. It's a notable point because Slipstream won't work on a Wyvern. You can get those Hydrixes further up the table. If they charge in, you could spray past the target you've charged, for example, and catch a little model behind. Say if you've charged a heavy Warjack. Oh, got a bit of blurry camera for a second. Come on, give it back to me.
Come back to us, Jamie.
Come back. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Don't go towards the light. So, it's like, say if you could charge your Hydrix into a heavy, if you then spray through the heavy with one of your attacks and hit something behind it and kill a single with infantry model, you still get the run and gun at the end of the activation as well. So you can make it work a lot like melee sprint. And yeah, and the other thing that will happen, you'll see happen quite often, and people don't often expect this one, is the critical stagger on a really big individual model. So if you're playing against a Colossal, she won't as easily trigger the run and gun, so you have to be quite careful when you use it. But if you're playing against a Maelstrom or a Mastodon or something that's like, you're not going to be able to just bring it down in one turn of shooting off most of the time, you can walk forward, do the full draw hush shot, boost the attack roll, use Deadeye to roll a 4th attack die as well to try and really get that crit, do critical stagger, and those big models do not like losing their initial attacks because they've got so many of them. Sorry, I said a lot there. Kind of hugged the mic on that one, but I really like Lylyth. I think she's fun.
No, yeah, I mean, she sort of speaks to me as like a ranged Kruger too. She's a great. She looks like if I was to pick up Shadowflame, I would love to play all of the armies, to be honest, because they're designed so well. But if I was to pick up Shadowflame, I would jump on Lylyth because I quite like a warlock that does a bit herself, like why I'm drawn to Firequill really from Prime Blood. So I like a warlock that like is doing a bit in the turn rather than just casting a spell and putting an aura out. So she really speaks to me, and her mobility seems like off the charts. Is there any really key pieces you think she makes come alive, maybe outside the Hydrix as well?
I think one that she really likes to play with is the Shadowmancer Scion because of the Puppet Master ability specifically. So if you're really playing for those crit effects with her or with another model, so you can double up on that with Deadeye, so you can, you know, not just obviously Lylyth herself, but another model that has a powerful crit effect that's ranged attacks, although one's not coming to mind, probably the Kyrax, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you can also, so boost, you got the 4 dice roll, and then if you don't get the critical effect, you can re-roll it with Puppet Master and have another go at it. I think she's got something like a 75 to 80% chance of a crit, or higher than that when she does the re-rolls and 4 dice. It's quite high that she's going to get that crit stagger.
Massive. Dan, any thoughts from you handsome self on Lylyth?
So I think it's a beautiful model, and for those players that want to do the hobby side and have a real chance of testing their painting skills, I think, having seen Lylyth multiple times, the size of the model helps, but also just the actual level of detail and texture on that model. I believe it was Russ that did the sculpt, I'm guessing. I'm just going to take a guess there.
I think so. He leads the sculpting team, so there's a good chance he had a key hand in it. Yeah.
I think it's superb. I love the fact that there's that nod to the old Lylyth, having had a Legion army back in Mark 2. But I think it's also great the fact you've got a real alternative way to play the faction. I think, like you said, Jamie, about having that level of depth of flexibility of movement, especially if you're a player that's trying to sort of level up your gameplay, playing her and trying that different style can really help improve your game, but also give you sort of that mental challenge if you're in a group where maybe you're finding things a little bit easier, or you want that extra challenge to sort of stimulate yourself. I think she's great. I'm looking to pick her up after the Welsh. Yeah,
I think always a great depth in the the way you maneuver your army. I think the game ultimately comes down to positioning, and when you've got so much movement available to you, the skill ceiling seems really high. Excellent. Let's go on to Nyxyan, the Stygian Coil. 17 boxes, speed 6, arcane attack 7. No attacks, so we've got no mat or rat. We're def 15, armor 15, arcana 8, which is a lovely number, and control 12. We're apparition, so we're going to place 2 in the control phase. Prey, which is prey, you pick a model at the start of the game, +2 to attack and damage roll for Nyxyan. We've got Revelations of the Outer Darkness. Once per turn, when the friendly faction warrior model within 12, this model is destroyed or removed from play by an enemy attack. Immediately after attack is resolved, this model can cast a spell without Essence, Focus, or Fury. And steady, can't knock her down. She's got Nyxyan can immediately choose a new model / unit in her control range to be her prey. Friendly faction warrior models gain the benefits of Nyxyan's prey special for 1 turn. So your whole army is going to gain the benefit of prey on her feat turn. We've got 2 rack spells and 4 base spells. Admonition, iconic spell. When an enemy model advances and ends its movement or is placed within 6 of the target model, that model can move 3 inches. Breath Stealer, -2 speed and death for 1 round. It's like your nuke. Howling Flames causes fire damage. Any models hit by this suffer continuous fire. And we've got Shadow Step. Any models currently within 2 of this spellcaster suffer Shadow Bind. Additionally, you can place a spellcaster anywhere completely within 3 inches of its current location. So like a buff to vanish. You can Shadow Bind and then you vanish. I've actually never played against Nyxyan. I saw her played at our last Steamroller, because Dean played her, with like a whole bunch of dudes. It was all the dudes and like a couple of Vipexes, I think. What can you tell us about Nyxyan, Jamie?
Well, Nyxyan's super interesting because she does something that's very unique to Chimera, sorry, is that she brings a strong spell assassination over above anybody else, and she brings that with a very heavy sort of fire skew if you want to. So the first time I had written a list for Nyxyan in terms of this particular current incarnation, you want to stick all of the different fire abilities in there and just see what happens. Set a lot of stuff on fire. So you want to put a Wyvern in there for Draconic Aura, because if you look at Howling Flames, that her key spell on there, that's what she's really going to be trying to make super powerful to hit you a couple of times with that very, very hard. So if she's put Prey on your Warcaster during the feat turn, or if it is from the start of the game, then Howling Flames is already going to be Arcane Attack 9, power 15. If you put Draconic Aura up, it becomes power 17. If you have something for I think it's the Shadowmancer Scion has telemetry as well, so you can get it to like Arcane Attack 11 and start hitting things super, super hard. There's another one I'm missing somewhere. I think you can hit harder than that, or Ruin as well from the from Akeless as well. So you move things forward and start dropping things armor down. So you can start hitting you with like power 19 sprays where she's not having to boost anymore in terms of the attack roll possibly, and the damage roll is just going to be hitting you super hard. So it's she brings a very strong spell assassination and then a very strong fire skew. Outside of that, she's definitely one of the more sort of backline tricksy casters, where we've talked about Kyrax and Lylyth in terms of playing physically, personally, aggressively. Nyxyan's not so much that way unless she's going to come forward for that spell assassination, which you can do from downtown because of Shadow Step and I think it's what's the other one we said it was? Apparition as well. She's going to move quite far, quite personally herself, and then land those sprays from downtown. But if you say kill the wrong model on assassination when you're going after Nyxyan herself, then she could put Admonition on herself. She can do Shadow Step to just move out of the way if she's in a particular location for an assassination. She can actually be quite hard to pin down, and then also personally having stealth as well. So yeah, difficult caster to pin down when you want to take her off the table.
Yeah. So I misspoke when I went through the spell list, because Breath Stealer isn't actually an offensive spell. That's not her nuke. That's just a debuff. And then Howling Flames is the nuke. So in terms of sort of the assassination, because when I read her card, I was kind of unsure where you go with her. I totally understand you can sort of maybe try and refresh Prey across your army in 1 turn. That would be good. But the ranged assassination is from the Howling Flames, I suppose. And like you say, you can apparate to move 6, and then you got the 10-inch spray. And like you say, maybe in your opponent's turn, they let you Shadow Step because they've killed a model, and so then you've got a 20-inch threat, and it gets to really high power. So I can see why that is why that's attractive. Are there any things which you think really shine with Nyxyan, or do you think she's really flexible in what she can bring?
She's very flexible in the sense that the prey element of her feat, even though I was talking about it as being used as an assassination tool, it's also quite good for attrition if you want to just take a lot of units off the table if you're bringing an army that has a lot of units themselves, because they'll all get the benefits of that +2/+2. So giving all the warrior armies, your whole army of warriors +2 to attack and damage rolls is going to do quite a lot of work for you. And because she already kind of wants to stack fire buffs anyway, if you then start bringing units with fire buffs, such as the Cinderbacks, for example, then they're also going to benefit from all those effects as well. Start sticking Prey on top of things, start sticking Draconic Aura up as well. So I think a Wyvern is a really key model for her for that reason, just for the Animus, honestly, more than anything else. Then you're going to start putting some seriously heavy fire down, pun absolutely intended, across the table.
It was great. That's great. Tom, Huggy. Hey, Huggy. How you doing, man? Late to the party, but hi. Nyxyan loves Achilles. Yeah, I think we agree with that. And clouds everywhere. Awesome. Yep. If you could let me know if the audio is good, that would be great. We're the first time using Discord for this, and the cameras look better, but I'm not sure on the audio. So if you let me know if audio is good, that'd be great. Dan, have you played against Nyxyan?
I haven't. No, and the only time I've seen her is, like you said, when Dean played her at your event. Appears as quite I think quite a high skill from what I'm reading and looking at. I think high skill ceiling, high skill floor as well, potentially. Just as a player point of view, I think imagine that you can get good with her. A bit like when we said with the trouble. I can imagine she's when you've played the faction and then you've really got the nuance of different models. I think you can get a lot of work out of her. But also, yeah, I'm really interested to give her a go when I go on to Shard at the end of the year.
The sooner you move from dust, the better, because then cats can sit on the cupboard for a little while. Tom, audio is excellent. Fantastic. Thanks for that. That's good. My microphone purchase was well worth the money. We'll move on to Rask, which is a terrible guy for a lisp. And he's got 4 more races coming up, I think. Rask, Spawn of Shadows. I'll call him Dave from now on, I think. We've got Rask with 18 boxes, with speed 6, arcane attack 6, mat 8, def 14, armor 18, arcane 6, and control 12. We've got a battle plan. You can use it at any time. And one of them out of the 3. One of them is battle formation. Why are in its model's control range and base space with 1 or more models in a battle group. Friendly faction 1 models gain +2 armor and cannot be knocked down. Always good to not be knocked down. Desperate mission. It's range 5. Target friendly faction warrior model. If the model is in range, it gains last word. Which is if it's disabled by an enemy attack, it can advance 3 and make an attack. And then precision strike, which is always great to have. While I've been telling this model, friendly models ignore other friendly models and determine line of sight. And you can advance for your models as long as you're in precision strike, which is just always really good. Sidestep, if you're on an initial attack, you can move 2. We've got a cool name for a weapon called Thanatos, which is range 2, power 17, massive, and crit decap. So anything that exceeds oh yeah, crit decap, man. They're Mage Hunter Assassins. If you exceed their armor roll, you double the damage, and you can't tough. The feat is Wall of Fangs. While in Rash control range, friendly faction models gain defensive strike and repo 3. Both 2 very good rules to have. We are spell rack 2 slots. We've got Death March for +2 mat and Vengeance on a unit. We've got Flashing Blade, which is you can make a melee attack against everyone in melee range, I believe, and in line of sight. On a mat 8 range 2 power 17 weapon. Sounds great. And Warpath, throwback to Chromac 1 in circle. Warpath, when a friendly faction model in a spellcaster's range destroys 1 or more enemy models with a melee or ranged attack during its activation, immediately after attack is resolved, 1 cohort model in the spellcaster's battle group that is in its control range can advance up to 3. Love me a bit of Warpath. Warpath Stalkers and Warpath. Get in my veins. So, what do we think about the Spawn of Shadows, the enemy of the man with the lisp himself, Rask?
I'm going to assume that's good to me first.
Yes, you go ahead.
So, yeah, no worries. So Rasik is the closest you've got in Chimera to a sort of a tank or defensive warlock. They're not really known for their resilience. They tend to be glass cannons most of the time, if you want to sort of describe them as an overall playstyle in a phrase. But Rasik is your most resilient warlock that you've got there. And he's sort of a kind of a, in boxing terms, is a bit of a Philly shell counterpuncher in the sense that he's got this really long threat range with Warpath. Actually, the longest threat range in the faction for any war beasts, 1 more than Kyrax because of that Warpath. If you stick it on top of Hunter's Mark, so you can send 1 model a long way, but it's not sort of Rasik's main plan. His main plan is to move forward, is to use battle formation to give a very resilient multi-wound model infantry army. So you've got your incarnate knights who are naturally high armor and they've got battle driven when you damage them. You've got your death dealers that have unyielding when you get into melee range with them. And you can take some Hydrixes, obviously, as well, that also have like sort of already high armor. Stick all that stuff together, and then you're going to have some quite high armored models. I think you can get Incarnate Knights, I think when I was playing a game with Rasik, and you stick Dragon's Blood on them from a rack spell, and you can get them to armor 24 as soon as somebody's damaged them with Battle Driven, and put on a unit as well. That's quite high. Add that to Rasik's feat, which is the defensive strike as well, then you can put forward this quite aggressively positioned high armor army that if you're trying to engage that with a melee force in return, you're going to lose models on the way in because of defensive strike that's across the whole force. So you can really play this quite unusual, aggressively high armored game, which is quite unusual of the style for Chimera. And then if you then survives that turn, which you often will, you can then launch a War Beast a very long way to come and try and take out your Warcaster in response.
Yeah, Incarnate Knights are tough enough to kill anyway. But, like Defensive Strike, Repo, could give them Vengeance if you want. Yeah, she sound like she sort of breaks the mold for Shadowflame Shard, I suppose. Is it she? I have a terrible tendency to misgender Warlocks. He or she?
I'm going to say they, because I'm not 100% certain.
Great, that makes my life easier. They break the mold in terms of, I suppose, they're playing quite a resilient Shadowflame Shard army if you're looking to play the unyielding battle-driven models and then place the Dragon Blood on them. Is there any, like, I suppose we've gone through the Death Dealers and the Incarnate Knights, but is there any sort of War Beast which shine for her, or do you think they are more of a infantry-focused Warlock?
Because battle formation is triggered off War Beasts, you have to take a moderate battle group at the very least, and you'll almost always want access to that Hunter's Mark because it's a key threat range extender for the army. But outside of that, I really love playing the Drakion with Rasik, not only for the threat extension, but also because of the capacity to change the angles of different slams you can get. So because the Drakion has the smite on the head, you've already got quite a lot of flexibility of where you're going to get those slam attacks off anyway, and then extending that threat range further, making sure you get the exact angle that you want to just go across someone's army. I've definitely had thoughts about just playing Rasik with a number of infantry models and 4 Drakions just to see what would happen and just play pinball, because it sounds like a lot of fun.
I remember the first...
brave enough to try it yet.
I played against Sherwin like early on, and he had a Drakion, and he came in and slammed, and I was like, oh, it's not so bad, because you've slammed me off the objective, and you're not even going to hit me again. He was like, no, young one, I'm not going to follow up. I'm going to keep doing it. I was like, what? It was like playing ping pong with my models. It was fantastic. Dan, any thoughts on Rasik? Just realised there was a Y in the name. Rasik.
Yeah. Jamie, from your experience, how often have you sent them in and got the crit decap on a charge? Because is it Magical Christmas Land, or have you found it's happened? You've gone, yep, okay, that's 30 damage. Take that.
I've gone for it, but I've never got it on the charge attack. I wanted to. Interestingly, when it comes off most is when you walk into an area and start doing flashing blades. You'll just start getting correct decaps on things you didn't expect to. And I've had it happen, but playing against me. You mentioned Dean Booth earlier. We played a mirror on War Table a couple months ago. I'm not sure I did that as a mirror apparently. And he sent Rasik into the middle of my Chimera army and just started buying flashing blades. I was like, well, that's going to hurt. And then he got just a random crit decap on the Wyvern and went, well, I guess I'll boost that. Oh, that's a dead Wyvern then. Okay, I'll just take that off the table. No problem. So it tends to happen on the flashing blades more often because you're just making so many attack rolls. Yeah.
I love crit decap as a rule because you can't necessarily plan for it. And I think I was playing Bag of the Born against Plugger. Well, not against Plugger, Gravedigger the other day, but he had Plugger. And I got into a rough position. I tried to kill Vargas and I didn't. And Plugger got in. And I think he crit decapped Bagger for like 42 damage. I was like, I think I'm dead. Absolutely great. Crit decap's great. Cameron, do Chimera even have gender? Well, maybe not. We'll go with they, and then it doesn't matter. Hydrix with double spray and wings is very flexible to give the arm buff and not run into activation order problems. Sound advice from Tom, Mr. Huggy, for Rasik. Yes, for Dave. Right, next up. I mean, I'm not even sure this one is going to sound in English, but next up we've got, it just sounds like a snake, Shyryss. Who wrote these names, David? Come on.
What's it mean?
It just sounds like I'm about to pass out. Shyryss, the flawless dog. We're 15 boxes. We're speed 7, arcane attack 6, rat 7. No mat because we're only a ninja throwing person. We're def 16, armor 14, arcane 6 with control 12. We've got field marshal prowl, so if you've got concealment, you'll have stealth. She's got to jump after it makes After Shyryss makes a full advance through its normal movement, but before it performs its combat action, you can place a model any completely within 5. So it's like a little ninja leap. She's got Prowl herself, and she's got Repo free. So you can move, jump, then Repo. So really, really maneuverable. We've got a Venom Blade, and we've got 3 types of attack. We've got a Poison attack, so you're going to get additional dice against living. Shadow Bind, if you hit, you're -3 death and you can't advance. And Snipe, so you can be range 13. Also got Witch Mark, so if this attack hits an enemy model during its activation till the end of that activation, you can target that model with a spell, so you automatically hit and you ignore range and line of sight. This is Rat 7 with rate of fire 3 on those and base power 10. We've got a feat of the Dark Silence. Friendly models gain concealment and dodge while within Shyryss's control range. Additionally, while in control range, you can't be charged or slammed by power attacks. That lasts for a round, and we've got 3 spell slots. Banishing Ward, where you can't target that model with spells, or enemy you can't target with spells. And Hand of Destruction, which is you target an enemy model. If you hit, your battle group gain additional die on attack and damage rolls, and you against the model/unit, and you throw away the lowest roll. Jack says, I heard from a little bird named Matt that said Jamie plays a list with 6 beasts that I'm curious. Who is it led by? Matt put you in that one.
Yeah, he was thinking about when I used to play Legion of Everblight, because when I was playing Vale 1, this has been a good couple of years ago now at this point, start of the first year of Mark 4, I was playing with 4, what are they even called now, Neraphs, and then along with the character War Beast. It's been a while since I played Legion of Everblight now, and the Seraph. So yeah, I played with 6 heavies playing with Vale.
Yes.
A lot of fun. Insight, obviously. You know, if I enjoy playing Legion of Everblight playstyle, you'd imagine I enjoy playing the Chimera playstyle, which I definitely do.
They do seem a natural step into Mark 4. So Shyryss, I think for myself, when I got into the game, like pretty much late January, early February, Shyryss is one of the names that I heard most as an outsider getting into the game. What can you tell us about Shyryss?
So, if you are amused by playing chicken with your warlock, you will enjoy playing with Shyryss. She doesn't seem like it because she's got quite sort of low armor and resilience defensive stats, but she really likes playing super aggressively, particularly against enemy living warcasters and warlocks. And that's specifically because of the poison on her thrown daggers. They're only range 8. It doesn't look like she can go that far, but she actually has a personal threat range of 20 inches. She walks 7, she can jump another 5, so she can move 12, and then she throws those daggers 8-inch range. So she can hit a living enemy warcaster from 20 inches away with 3 of those that have got poison on them. So she can hurt people. Usually the first of those will be Shadowbind as well, so your warcaster is going to be drop 3 defense. When you've been hit by that first dagger, they all have Witch Mark, so she now automatically hit you with spells. So that Hand of Destruction, that's going to be an additional attack and damage die against you for the whole battle group, that goes on you. So you're -3 death. You now get basically signs and portents in terms of all battle group attacks against you, and there's 2 more coming at you with poison on them, and then the rest of the battle group's going to hit you as well. So she likes to assassinate, and she likes to play very aggressively. Now, because she's got Prowl, she can stand quite aggressive against shooting armies, depending on how much anti-stealth access they've got. And because of the feat that she's got, Dark Silence, where you prevent her and her whole army from being targeted by a charge, she can stand very aggressively and go, well, you can't charge at me, so you're going to struggle to get up the table at me this turn. I've played games with Shyryss where I really enjoy a super aggressive first turn where you'll run all of your War Beast up first, and you'll pre-plan what spells you're going to cast, so you'll get your Fury accurate. And then she casts her spells, walks up 7, jumps another 5, and repositions 3 more inches forward. So she's moved 15 inches with casting spells on her first turn, and then the opponent going second, going, well, you threaten into my deployment zone now, so I guess I might move backwards a bit or sideways with my Warcaster. So but like I said, if you get that wrong, she's got quite a low armor value, so she can go down very quickly if you play that style wrong. So it can be quite an exciting edge of your seat style. But yeah, she playing chicken basically is the description I would give of her playstyle.
I felt like a war veteran when you were explaining the scenario when you Shadowbind someone a Hand of Destruction, because I guess as like a person who's only got living models, it's absolute nightmare to play against. I suppose, do you think that in terms of lists, you're building a list towards the assassination, or are you building a more generic list and if it happens, it happens?
It's kind of that. You want to try to have the assassination possibility, but what she's really trying to do is she can play a very aggressive central scenario game. So if you're playing a scenario, I'm just going to say, I guess Wolves, we'll say, which is already a scenario you want to be in the middle of the table on anyway. If she's going first, she can then set up very handily for a turn 2, where she's run aggressively forwards again, and then feats, and her whole army can be stood basically just outside of your walking threat ranges because you can't charge at them. She gives them Field Marshal Prowl as well, and then Concealment. So most of her battle group is going to be stealthed on her feet turn. It's quite difficult to engage with her, and she wants to be standing. Ideally, she wants to be standing between you and the scenario, and then feating, because you're then in a rock and a hard place. If you don't walk forwards into her threat ranges, you're going to lose on the scenario and have a really difficult time. And if you do, you're going to struggle to get into range because you can't charge. So you might have to trample and buy attacks, or walk in and maybe take stealth off a couple of models and shoot a couple of them down. It can be quite like she wants to play an aggressive scenario game as much as possible. The difficulty with Shyryss is if you're not playing the edge of your seat aggressive game and she feats really far backwards, people can just go, well, I can't charge at you, so I'm just going to sit on the scenario and just pass turn. So she, you know, even though she likes playing aggressively, if you don't, and if you're not brave enough with her, then you won't get enough value out of her at the same time.
You find that you're taking, for your person, with your list, you're often taking double Wyvern, or you moved on to the Trikyrax? I can't say that word.
So,
how are you finding
Trikyrax is how it's pronounced. So basically, Chimera, Tri, and Axe at the end. Trikyrax.
Brilliant.
She loves playing with the Trikyrax. I would actually say she's probably one of the best warlocks for playing with the Trikyrax because she synergizes it with it so well. That would seem odd at first because you can't make it stealthed with her Field Marshal Prowl, so she won't be able to stealth it. But what she will be able to do is Hand of Destruction is great for its melee and ranged attacks. It makes it very fury efficient, so you don't often have to boost as much with your hit rolls, especially if she's put Shadowbind on something that's going to attack. When you can move a Colossal forwards into an aggressive position and say, you now can't target this with charges, it makes it quite difficult to take off the table. So she makes it quite resilient for scenario play as well, allows it to play quite aggressively. And then there's other things in terms of like it will benefit from having Banishing Ward on it, or it will happily provide its negation tail for Arcane Vortex for her and her army, which already want to play aggressively. So they synergize very well with each other. She loves playing with the Trike, but at the same time, she also does love playing with two Wyverns as well. Like those two Wyverns being able to be in two different places where the Trikyrax can only be in one place, they can benefit from the stealth because even though this is an interaction that sometimes people mistake, is that even though an 80mm model can't benefit from the +2 defense from concealment, they still get the concealment bonus. They count as having concealment, which will trigger the prowl and give them stealth on feet turn. So having two stealthed Wyverns that can't be charged is also quite a difficult prospect. She likes both styles. So.
Yeah, I suppose, like you say, there is a bit of a fine line to be played because you need to be taking advantage of not being able to charge. Be able to be charged, but also in a way that you're close enough not to be charged. So if you feet if 20 inches away and then you say you can't charge me, you're like, okay, no problem, I can't charge you. But if you feet 10 inches away and I can only walk 5, okay, I can't charge you. That's really strong. But I suppose when you're trying to find your feet with Shyryss, there'll probably be games where you either feet too aggressively and then they somehow still get to you, or there's turns that you'll feet turn 1 and think, oh, actually, I probably could have feated turn 2 and pushed it a bit more. So I suppose there's a line to be found there. So it's not that immediate, I'll just feat and my opponent's got a hard turn. You've got to feat at the right time in the right position.
Yeah, she's an edge of your seat, pushy look warlock, and then I'll just be honest, the two warlocks I'm enjoying playing a lot at the moment are Shyryss and Kyrax, two aggressive pushy look warlocks. So it's a fun style to play with. Yeah. Do
you prefer warlocks that have a bit more involvement in the game themselves in terms of buying attacks, or you just finding that you like the nature of having a warlock sort of in danger range and that sort of excitement of am I going to survive this turn or not?
Both. Depends on the game. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So yeah, no, it's fun to play with the warlock who's actually physically doing things with their abilities every turn, rather than as Dan put it earlier, upkeep a spell, cast an aura, or I think you might have said it, whatever. But those having warlocks that have a personal input on the game, her Lylyth as well mentioned, Nyxyan in terms of that personal assassination threat later on, Rasik even when he could move through his army with precision strike if he's not doing battle formation, and then go and clear a whole army, and then have his army move ahead of him again, like. Playing Chimera is going to be playing an army mostly of quite aggressively positioned casters, or in the case of Nyxyan, a caster that doesn't position aggressively but can still threaten an assassination from downtown.
Yeah, nice. You go, Dan.
I know we've got one more cast to go, but do you think that's one of the main benefits of the faction is they're quite a proactive faction? So for players that want to be really sort of bring it to their opponent, but also being mentally stimulated, I'm going to ask you the question. You need to solve it, sort of thing. I'm going to come and hit you with the X, Y, and Z. But you also find it also keeps you engaged in games for obviously those larger points when you've got clock and things. Do you find you're really on it because you have to proactively think, right, I need to do this, this, and this. Whereas there's some factions that might be a bit more passive in their approach. How have you found that personally?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. They can be an army that has got more sort of pressure on your clock, as you put it, because you're making more decisions actively with them. You're trying to create opportunities. They're not as much of an army, maybe with the exception of Rasik. They're not as much of an army where you're going to run forward feet and survive and then attack afterwards. They're more of an army where you're going, okay, I need to create a scenario where I can kill a model you weren't expecting me to kill this turn. Overall, as a faction, I describe Chimera as an army, or Shadowflame Shard in particular, as they're an army of scalpels. They can usually, as an army, pick one or two models on the table and go, if they're in range, they're going to get killed this turn. They're not as good as an army as at taking lots of models out at once, with the notable exception of Kyrax, in the case of single wood infantry, etc. But they tend to be more specialist at saying, I'm going to make sure this one model I really need to be killed this turn is going to go down, and here's how I'm going to do it. Usually gives you the tools for doing so.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom said best caster to run Trixie Shyryss, so Shyryss. He agrees with you. Lastly, but not leastly, we've got Valix, Fate Eclipse. We're 18 boxes, we're speed 6, arcane attack 6, mat and rat 7, death 15, armor 17, arcane 6, and control 12. Valix, they're steady, so they can't be knocked down. And we've got elite cadre with shard nocturnes, and that's the models in the Shadows and Scum box. So the Shards, the Solo, and Achilles. He grants them Flying High, which if you target a model with Flying High with a ranged attack, you're -3 range. And friendly models can advance through this model as if they have enough movement to completely pass its base, because they're literally flying. We've got Throne, Deimos, and Phobos, which is a range 6 weapon. There's 2 of them. And they're power 12, but they've got drag. So if you hit a model, you can drag it base to base, and it's not skewer, so all you've got to do is hit. And then we've got 2 melee attacks, which are mat 7, range 1, power 12, and they're crit brutal damage. And combo strike, you can do 1 power 16 rather than your 2 power 12s. The feat is called Blood Moon. When a friendly faction model directly hits a model in Valix control range with an attack, resolve the attack as if it was critically hit. And we've just went through a bunch of critical hits, so that's all really good. We've got spells, we've got 2 rack slots, and we've got Marathon, which is sprint for your battle group, which if you kill a model with an attack in melee specifically, yep, you can make a full advance when it ends. And he's got Vanish, which is a 3-inch place, which gives you a bit more personal threat for Valix. Probably my favourite looking Warlock out of Shadowflame Shard so far. I think he looks great. What can you tell us about Valix, Jamie?
So, if I described Shyryss as if you enjoy the game of playing chicken with your Warlock, then you'll enjoy Shyryss. With Valix, it's do you enjoy your Warlock having a nuclear weapon of a feat? That you need to make sure that you drop that on someone at the exactly correct moment, and then if you do, you'll win the game, because that's basically how Valix works. I don't think I quite realised how many different terrifyingly strong crit effects there are in Shadowflame Shard until I played a game with Valix, because there's a lot of them. And even just playing with your simple Lasher unit that I mentioned earlier, they just have crit knockdown, and they have 2 attacks each, so 6 of them in 6 attacks in the unit. If you walk forward and just knock 6 models down without having to roll the crits, like that can be quite terrifying. It opens up a lot of different options for your army you didn't previously have before. You know, if you take a Hydrix with the critical armor piercing head, which now just does armor piercing attacks when it hits, people won't often give you something for that to kill, but if they do, it will kill Colossals on its own, like without a problem. Just power 16 crits every time it hits you, so it can do impressive damage. I think the difficulty that comes with playing with Valix is that you have to make sure that you time that feat for the perfect moment, and people who know what Valix does will very rarely put their Warlock anywhere near, or Warcaster anywhere near you, because of the fear of that. So that may mean that in certain games you're going to have to use the Valix's feat to do as much attrition damage as you can, take off a scenario, kill as much of the opponent's army, and you might not get to use it on the opponent's Warcaster to take them out. And in which case, then, yeah, you're trying to bully people with this feat's going to be quite scary. You're going to have to give me something with it eventually. What are you going to give me?
Jack said Paragons are fun with Valix, absolutely. And I suppose, like you say, the feat can be a tricky one to get correct. And I suppose some games you might hold it too long because you think, well, I'm only gonna kill 1-on-1 of this turn with a feat, so I'm gonna hold it. And I suppose you're trying to find that perfect turn to use the feat where you get all of your crit effects on all of your models. And I suppose that really will come with practice, learning when you think it's best to use the feat. But I suppose there might be something said to just getting ahead with the feat, right? Say it's turn 2 and you think, he might have forced me into a feat and I might grab 2 cohort models if I use the feat. There might be something to be said for just taking that advantage and going with it. I think a lot of the army is still very good outside defeat, and you can still fish for the crits. But like you said, I think it's quite funny how many crit effects are there until you start looking for it, and you're looking at it going, wow, there is a lot of crit effects.
Right, right. And then, as you'd imagine, with the models that Valix comes with, there's a lot of critical effects on those models. The Shades, who work with a lot of different warlocks, have critical effects on the melee and ranged attacks that are going to come off. You know, Aklis has quite a crit effects, I think, on every weapon. That's going to do additional damage all over the place. And then Valix's own attacks themselves in terms of, you know, they get into melee. We haven't really talked much about Marathon, but Marathon is another key part of Valix's playstyle that gives you an interesting hit and run element to the mid game. So we've mentioned that even though you're going to get to use that really powerful nuclear weapon feat one pointer in the game, Marathon is how you're going to get most of your work done. Being able to go in with you know, a Wyvern or a Hydrix that we've mentioned earlier in terms of that, trying to get that crit armor piercing positioning off. But in those other turns before and after, being able to hit something hard and then move back outwards again as long as you've killed something gives Valix a lot of strong attrition potential with the battle group.
Yeah.
You find also a late game with him having drag, or they having drag, also just gives you those strange sort of unpredictable assassination runs. So once you've got up on attrition, or if you're behind on attrition, if let's say it's not gone perfect, actually having that Warcaster with a drag effect, just being able to reposition different models can really help you. Do you find that often, or has it not already come up in your games?
100% it does, yeah. It's a really important late game tool. If you're playing against 40mm based and smaller models, obviously it won't work against, you know, larger than that. Yeah. But with Valix having Vanish as well already, so that's already with effectively kind of makes them speed 9. You know, charging forward to then move 12 inches. You know, and then what's the range on the weapons? Because they've also got dual attack, so you could kill a model within 14 inches, and then throughout. Well, so you've moved 12. You could then hit a target another 6 inches away, so an 18-inch threat range without any other assistance in terms of dragging models in. That's a really good late game tool if you're sort of down to it and you're down to the last few models. Definitely an interesting model to use Regulus on as well. If you get, it is notably quite difficult to get that. What's the rule called? Espionage move off. But if you're going to get it off on anybody, then having it on Valix or another model in Valix's army, where you didn't expect them to get to that particular position for using the feat and the crit effects, it can be particularly devastating there. Particularly if your game plan lines up around, I'm going to do a lot of damage over a single turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom pointed out that the enemy model has to be in Valix's control for the feat, which is a good distinction to make, I suppose. And Camo says, "Morning from Oz." Really resisted to do a really strong Australian accent there, so I'll just say good morning in a very British accent. Yeah, I've had Marathon killer actually. I played against Dean at a Steamroller recently, and he ran like a couple of Vipex and a Trike, the Shades, and then some support. I think the Shades are just absolutely killer, even outside of Valix, but especially with Valix. But those guys are absolute nightmare with their Fortune Seeker, Ricochet. You know, like I was running like Brian Bloods, and they've got a bunch of solos, and they're all characters, and he was sniping them out of the wazoo. And on defeat turn, they all fell apart. But the real thing was really tough. He had Vipex with the sidestep head, so you know, and 4 initials. So we would silence the death of Vipex but eat through a Marauder crew and then just sprint away. And then obviously the Tri-Chimerics had a bunch of crit effects, which also he enabled as well. So I really enjoyed playing against him in the sense that I would have loved to have played Dean's list for that game, because it looked like he was having all the fun with all of these effects going on. And I mean, as he was removing my stuff, he was having great fun. We actually played
as a good friend used to say, there's a finite amount of fun in the universe, and I want to make sure I have as much of it as I possibly can. Amen.
And with Kruger too, I had all the fun. That's for sure. So that is the last leader model we've gone through. I think as an army visually, I think they're absolutely killer. I really love the natural evolution from the sort of Legion of Blight to Kyrax. As far as I understand, lore-wise, and now we're really out of my ballpark, these aren't under Blightergast, who used to be the Legion sort of avatar. These are they follow someone else?
So, this is definitely more show in Strong Point than mine.
Fair.
But so yeah, Everblight being the dragon that created the Legion of Everblight.
Yeah.
And instead it was so Ryas and Seren who basically rebelled against Everblights, and then they are ultimately the creators of their own little legion, effectively, which is the Shadowflame Shard as part of Chimera.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I suppose what would be good, if you could maybe give us a little snippet of what you think the overall faction sort of play style is. If anyone's sort of listening and say they're thinking of jumping into Shadowflame Shard, but they've not built it yet, what do you think sort of a snippet of the play style is, and why should people grab them?
Absolutely. So, Shadowflame Shard, definitely I would describe them as aggressive glass cannons, and in the sense that, as mentioned earlier, they're kind of also like scalpels, in the sense that they're very fast, they hit very hard, they're not very resilient compared to a lot of other armies. I guess if you're talking about strengths and weaknesses overall, that's probably how I'd position them. But one of the things they definitely are particularly good at is they can pick one, maybe sometimes two models on the table, and they have usually enough resources to ensure that those models go down. They're not quite as good at taking out masses of enemy models, except in certain circumstances. They have fewer abilities that allow them to take down masses of enemies, but they're very good at killing specific enemy targets. That can include enemy warcasters and warlocks, so they are therefore very naturally quite good across the army at assassinations, and they have a lot of tools that will enable assassinations as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. For the chat, we've got about 5 minutes left with Jamie. So if you've got any questions for him before we go, get them in now. Daniel Randall says Serin and Ryas, they have created the Shadow Flame. Excellent. Thank you, Daniel. Lore is not my strong point. I have read it. I read it about 10 years ago for like Mark 3, and then I forgot it all. So I need to reread it. Dan, you actually, these are your second army, right? You've got Shadow Flame.
Yeah.
How have you enjoyed playing them so far?
I'll be honest with you, so far I've played them as more of an introductory force. So I've actually thought, okay, I want to have another force for doing demos or for helping teach people. So I've used them as that. I've only got two starter battle boxes as well as the two-player starter set, half of them. So I haven't got the full faction, and we're looking to add to that after the Welsh. I have found them. I love the mod. I really like the models. I think that they're painting wise and as sort of a hobby wise. I think for any sort of style of painter, particularly those people that just want to add some washes and try some blends and things, I think they've got a great ability there. But I found the casters really enjoyable. I found it quite tricky, Jamie, to try and get the most out of the single wound infantry. I'm interested how is there any tips that you can give me as a player to try and get the most out of my single wound Def 14 infantry that died to Aaron's blasts in droves?
The first one there is judicious use of warping winds to give them all blast resistance. That definitely helps get them up the table. It's probably a little bit easier to apply the quick fang stalkers because there's a lot of in-faction melee speed buffs, so they'll benefit from Hunter's Mark. They'll benefit from Kyrax's feat as well. I've seen people use them with Shyryss before, where because they're naturally stealthed, being able to run them up the table, put blast resistance on them, and then say you can't charge them means they're a difficult target to get into. And then because of anatomical precision, they're quite acrobatics. They can get into some tricky places, and they can bring down tough models quite easily. So quick fang stalkers I'll see used quite often, but do expect them to die in droves when they get there. They're not as resilient as some of your medium-based models, but they can bring down a lot of models on their way in. And they're quite good for delivering quick fang masters, who have some of the most exciting, like different weird kind of tech bombs that you'll ever see.
Yeah.
You know, you see them charge at a heavy warjack sometimes, and then notice that if it's particularly low def, they've got the dual attack on the quick fang master, so you can deliver that in, actually do the ranged attack first, potentially land a rust bomb there, and then start hitting them with combo strikes, and then bring them down, basically kind of power 15s, which will do really nice work. The wind strikers, I think they're having a bit of a problem at the moment in terms of metagame, because what you're seeing people use is a much higher volume of multi-wound infantry models, which because they've got puncture, they're struggling a little bit there. But if you then face an army of single wound infantry, so say for Storm Legion, for example, or other armies that will prefer to use single infantry, Winter Corps with their Winter Corps infantry, then they'll do a lot better there because they're better at sort of plugging those individual attacks. Interestingly as well, if you want to play with Talon Death Dealers and you just need to make sure you put some damage on something to trigger finisher, that's another good use of Quick Fang Wind Striker as well. Just to put that puncture on for a single wound, send the Death Dealers in, you've already triggered finisher, start doing your Weapon Master attacks and go to town. So, yeah.
Basically, Dan, get good.
That's fair.
No, that's really fantastic. Thank you, Jamie. And also, I would say maybe with Gravediggers, and maybe you've got Dark Operations coming back, you might get a bit more single wind infantry slowly come back into the meta with Gravediggers and Dark Operations. Tom said, don't try and paint all the details. Nobody knows how a Cyber Snake looks, so go nuts. Amen to that. Paint your models how you want, make them look cool, rock on. Tom, Combo Strike is pretty legit. It is. We are coming up to our hour, and I don't want to abuse the time we've been given, so we're going to wrap up there. Thank you, everyone in chat. We had a really, really strong viewing live. We had nearly 20 people watching, which is amazing. It's the most we've ever had. So thank you guys. I'm really, really grateful for your engagement. Super grateful. Dan, mate, thank you for your time as ever. I'll see you on Wednesday at Chelmsford. And Jamie, thank you so much for coming on. We genuinely appreciate your time and all your insight. It's been fantastic.
Thank you for having me on. It's been great. Slight apologies, by the way. My camera's been a bit focused weird. I'll try and improve that next time I want to live stream. But thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries.
It's fine. We usually have technical problems. So
yeah. We're lucky they've been able to hear us for the last hour. Don't worry, Jamie. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you next